Hello. It has been a very long time, but I'm happy to be back to read you this book this evening. As I record this, it is Christmas Eve, and I'm going to be sharing with you this little book called A Mouse Carol. A Mouse Carol. In a certain house was a dusty old attic full of forgotten things. In this dusty old forgotten attic was a surprisingly tidy corner, and in the center of this tidy corner stood a dollhouse. In this dollhouse lived a mouse named Rosie, and she was getting ready for a party. That's right. The dollhouse mice always hosted the attic Christmas party. They were the only mice with an oven to bake cookies in. Rosie was determined that tonight's party would be extra special. She wrote invitations to all the mice in the attic. She got out the music books the mice would use on their traditional caroling trip. That's right, Posy, I'm getting to that. She swept and mopped the floors, polished the brass candlesticks, and dusted the whole house, even the chessboard. Then it was time to bake. The mice would be hungry after their long walk out of the attic and through the rest of the big house, singing to the other mice. She always baked a lot, but this time she felt she should make more. They would need lots of dessert tonight. She baked and baked and baked some more. She got out her favorite Christmas decorations, the ones with the fruit. Everyone always said they looked good enough to eat, which was a high compliment from her fellow mice. At last everything was ready, and she even had time to work on her new winter quilt. That evening, the other attic mice began to gather. The games cupboard mice, the toy box mice, the blanket chest mice, the wardrobe mice, and the book box mice gathered in the parlor, each dressed in Victorian attire. The mice had read enough Charles Dickens stories to know that this was how one should dress at Christmas. They collected their caroling books and set off with Rosie in the lead. The mice made their way out of the attic, down a flight of stairs, and came to their first caroling stop, the linen cupboard. "Everybody gather round," whispered Rosie, as Mr. Games Cupboard rapped on the door with his cribbage peg. "Page 4. The mice hurriedly shuffled pages and cleared their throats. When the linen cupboard mice pushed open the door, the attic mice broke into a squeaky rendition of Silent Night. The linen cupboard mice applauded, and the attic mice helped them shove the door closed again. In this way, they regaled the mice of the kitchen, pantry, and even the cellar. Though they stayed at the top of the steps and never actually saw the cellar mice, it was a creepy place, most of the mice thought, and they couldn't wait to leave it. It was on the way to the library that somebody thought they were being followed. "It's the cat," Miss Wardrobe insisted. "He's going to catch us this time." Rosie looked back and saw the family cat come strolling around the corner, keeping his distance. "You know the cat doesn't chase us," she reminded her friends. "He's just slow," said Mrs. Bookbox, "but he's still a cat, and cats eat mice. That's science." "But he's never chased us on any of our caroling trips," Rosie reminded her. He just follows along behind us. I think he likes the music." "Cats don't like music," said Mrs. Bookbox. "We like it," argued Rosie. "Why shouldn't he? Come on, let's try singing for him." Nervously, the mice picked up their music books. The paper fluttered in their shaking paws. As they started a very warbly, "God rest ye merry gentlemen," the cat lay down with his chin on his paws. "See," Rosie said when they finished, "he just wants to hear us sing. That's why he follows us. We should all take that as a very nice compliment." "He's probably just waiting for his chance," growled Mr. Games Cupboard. "We have to pass him to get to the library, or home for that matter. All he has to do is reach out a paw and make one swipe." He swung his cribbage peg and knocked the book out of the paws of his neighbor, who shrieked and fell against the mouse next to her. "Well, that's not really helping, is it, Mr. Games Cupboard?" said Rosie, exasperated. "Listen, everyone. I am convinced that the cat means us no harm at all, and to prove it, I shall go and talk to him. I suggest you all come with me, and if you don't want to join me in a show of goodwill, you can slip past us. I shall meet you at the library door." She straightened her flower hat, twitched her tail, and marched down the hall toward the cat. Even though she really believed the cat wouldn't harm her, it was scary, especially when the cat raised his head and looked interested, but she kept going. "Hello," she said as cheerily as she could. The cat's face loomed over her with enormous black and gold eyes. "Hello," he said, his voice pleasant and a little surprised. Rosie got straight to the point. "Were you following us to listen to our carols?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "I like your singing. You sound very nice. I always look forward to it." The mice were tiptoeing by and scampering off toward the library. "Thank you very much," Rosie said. "I apologize for my friends. Some of them think you want to eat us, you see." "Oh dear, no," protested the cat. "I don't want to eat mice." "Neither do you, I know. Yeah. I'd just like to hear the carols." He looked down sadly. "My humans never sing Christmas carols." "Well, come along with us to the library," said Rosie. "It's our last caroling stop." The cat looked delighted. "Really?" "Yes," Rosie insisted. "I think it's time we were friends. My name's Rosie. What's yours?" Charlie," said the cat. But when they got to the library, the other mice were not at all pleased to see Charlie, and demanded what Rosie thought she was doing. "I'm not knocking on that door until he goes away," declared Mr. Games Cupboard. "I won't be responsible for anything happening to the library mice." "I won't hurt anyone, I promise," said Charlie. "I just want to listen." He lay down on the floor and tried to look as harmless as possible. "Go on, Mr. Games Cupboard," said Rosie. "Charlie is perfectly all right." Finally, with much grumbling, the caroling went on. But when it came time to close the library door, it was too heavy. The mice pushed and strained to no avail. Then the shadow of the cat fell over them. Sure they would be eaten, several of the mice scattered or cowered to the floor, but Charlie simply reached up and pushed the door shut for them. The mice stared. "That was very nice, Charlie," Rosie said at last. "Wasn't it, mice?" The cowering mice said nothing, only dusted themselves off with sidelong glances at the cat. "You're welcome," said Charlie, just as if they had actually thanked him. Rosie looked from her friends to the cat, who only wanted music and companionship, and she made a big decision. She asked, "Do you like cookies, Charlie?" Miss Wardrobe grabbed her. "Yeah, I know you do." Miss Wardrobe grabbed her. "You can't invite him home. He's a cat." "He's a lonely, friendly creature," Rosie insisted. "He doesn't want to eat mice. He only wants a little music and a little friendship. A little Christmas." "You'll give him a Christmas dinner of mice if you bring him upstairs," said Mr. Games Cupboard. "Listen, mice," Rosie said. We don't just have Charlie's word that he means us no harm. Think of all our other caroling trips. He never chased us, not once. And he had plenty of chances to catch us and eat us on this trip, including right now, and he didn't. I believe him. I rather like him. And I'm inviting him to the party. If you don't want to come, that's fine. You can stay home and eat stale crackers or whatever you have stashed." As it turned out, all of the mice and their families stayed for the party. Even a cat lying outside the front door of the dollhouse didn't lessen the appeal of the huge spread of desserts Rosie revealed waiting in the living room. The dining room. While her mice guests chatted in the parlor, Rosie carried out plates of goodies to Charlie, whose head was bigger than the doorway. He peered in at the Christmas decorations. "You'll have a lovely house, Rosie," he said, eating an entire plateful of ginger cookies with one lick. "Thank you for inviting me." "I'm so glad we finally met properly, Charlie," said Rosie. "The other mice will come around when we get to know you better." "I hope so," said Charlie. "I'd like to have friends I could talk to. The humans are a bit slow, you know. You have to keep explaining things to them with meows, stares, knocking things over. You can't just chat like this." "Well, I would be honored to be your friend," said Rosie. Charlie licked some berry filling off his lips thoughtfully. "Rosie," he began hesitantly, "my name's not really Charlie. It's, Charlemagne. I thought I ought to tell you, but please don't tell anybody else. It's embarrassing." Rosie smiled. "All right. Merry Christmas, Charlie." That night, as Rosie washed stacks and stacks of plates and cups, she thought that today had indeed been extra special. As she relaxed by the fire with her knitting, she thought about how she had needed to be brave today, but more to stand up to her fellow mice than to face a cat. As she took her nighttime cup of tea to her room and snuggled into bed, she thought about how nice it was to make a new friend, and how it was even nicer to become somebody's first real friend. Friendship is the best kind of present, she thought, and you never knew where you might find it, even in a cat. The end. All right, everyone's asleep. The little kids are raiding the goodies. I hope you enjoyed the story. This book was fun to put together. It was a family project, and all of the illustrations are photographs that were staged with miniatures, and that was a lot of fun. I hope that you've had a good end of the year. It has been quite a year for me in several different ways, and I hope that you all will have a peaceful and wonderful holiday season, and a very happy new year. And I hope to be a little more active here in the new year, once things are a little more sorted out. Meanwhile, from Posey and myself, whom you heard several times giving her input, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season, as I said, and I'll see you again